Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonia Farrell. This is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got Suzanne Quinn, who is the project manager from Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Skills Hub. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Can you just explain, before we go anywhere else, just a little bit about what this Skills Hub actually is and how do you help to benefit with a business?
So the Skills Hub has been operating for just over 5 years in the county, and the idea is to offer independent support, guidance, signposting to businesses who are trying to navigate what is really deemed a very complicated skills system. So they might recognise they need some skills, they may have heard of the word apprenticeships, but actually how do they navigate, where do they go, where do they start? And that's what really fundamentally the Skills Hub are trying to do, is to bridge that gap really.
So say then a business is looking and they're wondering where to start. What would be like a perfect example of why a business would want to come to you and find out what skills are available, whether it's for the business owner perhaps, or even an employee?
So I think throughout in the media you hear a lot that there's skill shortages and we're in a bit of a crisis, and it varies from sector to sector, but there is some consistencies across the board where there are skills gaps. And I think businesses have to look at themselves and their employees and think, right, if I can't recruit in and bring in that perfect person that's going to tick every single box, how can I actually get the jobs that I need doing? Where am I going to grow, and how am I going to grow as a business with the people that I have? And that's where we can step in. So they would have an appointment with a skills advisor, and they literally just talk through what your setup is, what your team dynamics are, and where your skills gaps are. Where are you vulnerable as a business? What is the trajectory or the plan? And then what skills and what training would actually suit your business, whether that's short-term, long-term, apprenticeship, night school, online, or anything. You know, there's lots and lots of skills can be taking place in lots of formats. So it's what works for you as a business.
And what size business would usually, be able to access this? Does it matter on the size at all?
Primarily the focus is around small, medium enterprises, but we do work with large businesses. So it is across the board. The small businesses probably need more hand-holding in terms of to navigate the skills system and look at how do they embark on it on the first. If we're talking larger businesses, then they already have maybe a skills program or training program in place, but what they're trying to do is look local. So one of the key things that we do is we have our Skills Hub website, so anybody can use that. So if your manager says, yep, you can go on an Excel course or you can go on a team lead course, you type that in and then the options will come up. And what we only have on the website are local training providers. So it's trying to keep that local. So yes, you can upskill, but you can also invest into the local economy by supporting local training providers. So we're trying to support both sides of things really.
Yeah, and I suppose then you tell me, but I suppose for a business who is looking to, like you say, retain staff, so perhaps they'd want to stay in that organisation and stay within that culture even. Does that then, from what you see, does it really help as well with a business, when they're looking to grow?
Absolutely. If you invest in your staff but it has to be, it's not just sending them on a course, it's also linking it in with the business plan and the business growth. So if you just send them on a course, but then they're not allowed to then take on extra responsibility or don't utilise those skills, then you will possibly still lose that member of staff. But if you actually embrace that training, listen to their training and embed it within their day to day and help them grow within the business, then absolutely it will help with your retention. And all businesses have to develop and grow. We can't stand still. So sometimes investing in skills, it isn't necessarily about growing. It is about just keeping up with the market, keeping up with what your competitors are doing. And investing in your staff is usually the best way to do it. We speak to so many businesses And they say repeatedly, if we can find the right person, we will train them up. But then what happens is when that person starts, does the training actually take place, or formal training or official training? And that's where, we can try and help and support and map out a plan on where to get that training from.
I mean, you mentioned at the start when we started to chat, Suzanne, about, in the press and things, we see things now about such a big skills shortage within organisations. Is there any sort of reason why you can say why that is now? Is it just a sign of the times, or is it something in particular?
I think historically, it's probably just been that lack of investment. Businesses look at the here and now, and in some cases, they're just trying to survive. And I think when you invest in training, there is a cost involved, but it isn't just the cost of the training. It's the cost of, if that person isn't sat at the desk, the backfilling, somebody else has got to do that job. So it's the bigger picture, really, when you take somebody out of a job. And it's just that lack of investment that's taken place, really. So what we're trying to do is, through the Skills Hub, we deliver the local skills improvement plan. So the idea of that is to make sure that the training that is on offer is actually what businesses need as well, because there can be a bit of a mix, especially with certain historically with the colleges and the universities and training providers, are they delivering what employers actually need? And in the most part, yes, they are. But it's that flexibility and getting that employers linking more with the providers so that they can adapt and change the curriculum to actually meet the specific needs of the business. And then you'll see the impact a lot better, and that's what businesses want to do. They want to see what they're investing in and what impact it is. And sometimes with training, it can be quite a slow process in getting that return on investment. It does happen, but it isn't going to be the next day. And that's what some businesses are trying to expect or try to live to, and it doesn't always work out that way.
Is that sort of kind of a bit of a barrier then, or it has been a barrier where the provider might not be exactly specific to a particular business and what they, the training they can provide?
I think providers are really, really flexible, and they work with all sorts of businesses, and they go into partnerships with small, medium businesses. And I think there's this fear that they're not going to be able to meet my demands, or, oh, that's what the course outline is. It's not quite what I want. It might only be 50%. But actually, if you just pick up the phone or you speak to the college and say, I only want my staff member only needs to do X, Y, and Z, then actually they'd be able to accommodate and design a package just for you. So sometimes it's the unknown, and that's what our skills advisors can do. Because I think, especially when you're talking of medium-sized businesses or small businesses, if you are in charge of, for example, media, but it might only be 20% of your job, because you also do this. So you don't necessarily want to do a full week course because it's only such a small part of your job. So it's getting that balance on finding the course, finding the right trainer, because that makes a massive difference, to suit what you're looking for. I mean, through the Skills Hub, there are grants available as well, and these are fully funded, so there's no match needed. There's no other, you have to pay the money and we can pay that money back to you. And we have different amounts for different parts of the county. But it isn't always about the money. It is the other costs. It's that somebody being away from the desk. It's the time management and just fitting it into a day. So that's what we try and do when we try and find different types of courses that work with you. Yeah,
and then I suppose, though, like you say, I mean, as business owners, you can sometimes just go into the here and now, we've got to do this now, but it is looking at that bigger the bigger overall picture, really, isn't it?
Exactly. And when you look at training budgets, that is part of your disposable income on your budget. And when you look at things coming up ahead, when you've got your national insurance increases and things like that, it's possibly your skills budgets that might take a hit. But actually, if you want to ride that storm and you want to grow, one of your biggest assets and biggest cost is always in staff. And if you don't invest in them in the long term, actually it could cost more. And if you don't invest and look after your staff, yes, they may stay, but actually are they being the most effective? Because if you're not training them up in new systems, in new markets, actually you just become stale in what you're delivering and what you're offering. And at some point your customers or your supply chain will pick that up. So for us, there is a lot of data out there. There's a lot of, evidence to back it up. But the more you invest and look after your staff, the better your retention will be. They will stay and they feel valued.
Yeah.
And so for us, that's what we try and promote.
And if it is a smaller business who has not accessed any sort of training whatsoever at all for any of their staff at the moment, who might be listening, to this right now, what are the triggers? Why would they come to you? Say they do want to grow, but they are completely lost in how to do it. Is there something specific they can come to you first of all to say this is what we need? Or do you really guide them through or point them in another direction first of all to plan that out?
I suppose it depends, because we can look at it holistically. So we do work very much in partnership with the Growth Hub. So the Growth Hub would do more of a business review and a business angle of where they're looking at. We will just look at who have you got in place and the skills. And if they say, well, we're looking to move into this market, well, that's great. But who's going to deliver that for you? And we can look at the skill set for that. We can also support businesses. So if they've had a business consultant come in, or they've worked with somebody and they need to get certain ISO accreditations, but they haven't got the staff to actually implement it, then that's where we can say, well, actually, if you train up internally, you can do your course for this much. We can give you a grant for this much. So it's looking at that bigger picture. So skills is the underlining theme in all of the areas, wherever you talk about it, whether you're talking about growth, expansion, or even just, as I said, standing still. You still have to invest in skills, because otherwise you just get left behind. So it is a juggling act, but yeah, we can guide people through. I think with short courses and commercial courses where you're paying a certain amount and it's a day course, the challenges are the time, but also it's, if you buy something and it's not right, we can send it back. Once you've paid for training and it isn't up to scratch, or you think it was quite poor, and I think there is that fear, whereas what we can do is through our website, we've got around 60 accredited, what we would class as skills hub accredited training providers. So we can say, actually, if you go to this person, we know we've had experience, we've had case studies, we've had reports, and we monitor the standard of the training. So I suppose there's a bit of a comfort blanket in that sense that we can recommend. We don't recommend one. We will always recommend if it's, say, I don't know, Excel training or sales training, then if there's 2 or 3, we would say these are 2 or 3 different providers. And all of the information is on our website, and the detail is there. When we start talking about apprenticeships, which is a massive area at the moment, that's slightly different, because that is a longer process, and it is quite a, you've got to have certain government logins, you've got to have government systems in place, and it is a painful process in some, but once you've done it, it's really, really straightforward. And at the moment, the way that apprenticeship funding works is anybody of any age can do an apprenticeship, and these go all the way up to level 7 currently, and the government pay, if you are over the age of 21, you only pay 95%, the government pay 95%, so you're only paying 5%. So at the moment, if you do a level 7 in leadership, that apprenticeship is £14,000, which obviously a lot of businesses would be, no, can't do that. But actually you only pay 5% of that, which is around £700. It's over 12 months or 18 months. So I can't do the maths, but 700 over 18 months, it's very little, and it's paid monthly. So actually you can get a lot of training and a lot of impact into your business. And these apprenticeships, there's a big fear that with an apprenticeship, they have what's called 20% off the job. So for 20% of the time, they shouldn't be doing their actual day job. But what they can be doing is something else that's going to help the business. Looking at a project that you've always had on the back burner, or, we've been looking to go into this sector. Actually, that could be part of their project. So it's about looking at it not as a negative, but how can we use that time? How can we invest in that person, and then they feel part of that business. So there are lots and lots of pros in doing an apprenticeship, and we'd be able to support with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can get that in a way, in a different way, relate to it, because it's like networking, I suppose, as a business owner. It's like networking, and you have to understand, one, first of all, when you're going out networking, what is the importance of networking as well, and how much time are you putting into that to, like you say, to then grow or develop your own skill set in a different way while doing that. So with apprenticeships as well, it is a hot topic, and especially locally, the organisations I've come across in the last 6 months or more, that apprenticeship seems to come into conversation quite a bit. Sometimes people still don't quite understand them, don't really know how they work, but like you said, again, it's looking at that bigger picture and looking at how people can develop for the future and for future growth and opportunities.
Absolutely. I think there is sometimes still that perception that an apprentice is the 16-year-old or 18-year-old that's left education, and it's maybe in an engineering or manufacturing type position, and it isn't. There are lots and lots of businesses out there that take on full cohorts of apprentices every single year, and they could be across lots and lots of different sectors. So when we talk about, they might have someone in the accounts department, it could be in HR, it could be in marketing, as well as the what you would deem as traditional, but then also it's using it as an upskilling. So looking at who are your staff at the moment, how can we upskill them, and these are the best way that you can do it. It's long-term investment, so you're looking at minimum 12 to 18 months. So it is a long time investment, but the benefits and the qualifications that person will get, and the appreciation that they will then stay with that organisation, it's a really good balance, I think. Yeah.
So if anybody would like to find you, Suzanne, and would like to know more about the Skills Hub in Staffordshire, Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, how are they best to go about it? Is it to go on the website first of all, and then can they contact you directly, or from there?
Yeah, so we have a Staff Skills Hub website, and on there's numerous different contact sheets, so we'll be able to answer. Obviously, we're based at the Chambers, so if anyone wants to drop in or phone the Chambers, they're more than welcome to. And we have different Skills Hub advisors based in different locations, and they'll always be popping up at network events, and always happy to speak to people.
Based at the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce, which is down in Etruria.
Yeah,
that's where right. You're based, yeah. And just quickly, is there anything new or coming up that you can just mention now, which people might be interested in to take a look at?
So one of the things that we're going to be launching in the next few weeks is, which may or may not be interesting, but we're looking at launching a new survey to try and get to the heart of what people want. So when we talk about what providers want, what businesses want, obviously through the survey, and actually when you hear, as a business owner, if you read surveys or you read things and you think, well, that's not true in my business, I don't see that, then this is an opportunity to actually voice what you are looking for, what your pitfalls are. So it isn't just about what training you're looking for, it's about what doesn't work for you. Why is the system not working for you as a business? How can we improve that? This is funded through Department for Education, so it does get through to the top levels, I suppose, within the education. And on a side note, where you've got training providers and you've got colleges, when they go through Ofsted, they are asked, what are you doing to support skills with employers? Right. And they will say, they'll look at what we class as LSIP, so our local skills improvement plan, and they'll say, what are you doing to deliver to align with that? So there is some, I suppose, weight behind it, but it only works if businesses tell us their opinions.
Exactly. You have to speak, don't you, Suzanne?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, for coming in on Business Spotlight. That's Suzanne Quinn, Project Manager for Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Skills Hub, who are based down at the Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce in Etruria.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.